So I'm here with Senator Jaiz, right?
Correct.
Excellent. And we're grabbing lunch, and I noticed his backpack. And before we do anything else, tell me what you got with you. It looks like you're ready for anything there.
All right. Well, I got a lot of stuff in here. things like the tripod. And
we got tripods.
I've got my trusty Bose headphones, which go with me everywhere, as you can see.
Excellent.
But
Well
big
loved.
thing, I have a Samsung USB mic in here for impromptu recordings.
Right.
I have my Zoom H4 in with all the accessories. I have my Korg.
Cool. Look at that guy.
So I'm always
too. So he's ready for music anyway.
Always ready to perform.
And I assume you have a laptop in there hidden too.
No. I have
okay.
my iPad.
Oh, your iPad.
My iPad
okay, and that's what you interface with.
Yep. And you know, I always have multiple jacks in case I want to do over-the-top shots from my phone.
Right.
I have every adapter known to mankind in here. I never know when you're going to need power or things like that along that line, but that's basically, I can, along with my phone, I can run anything from this rig right here.
So you're ready for music, podcasting, interviewing, anything right here. Is that it?
Just about.
Great. The thing that caught my interest was reconnecting with you. One, you were so supportive of what I was doing, but also this passion for helping artists realize success doesn't have to look one way. And that's what really got my interest on what you work on. And I showcase a little bit of info on you with that.
My whole outlook now on helping other artists and being part of the community, it's a multifaceted thing. One thing is, I wish I had realized what I know now when I was younger, because I'm a year off of 50 and I'm having more success with music and things right now than I ever have before. But a lot of that had to come with, I had to get rid of the ego. I had to get rid of the idea that to be in music, somebody's mother had to hear me on the radio to be successful. There's working musicians all over the place. There are musicians now on the labels that are looking to get out of the labels and be indie like the rest of us. We have so many opportunities with Facebook and Instagram. We can put our own music out now with things like DistroKid or CD Baby, SoundCloud. Spotify is really leveling the game, because music doesn't really sell anymore. So you have to develop a brand. That brand has to resonate. You have to go out and find your fans. Now, my thing is what can I do for other people? Because if I sit there and talk about me all the time, which is what most musicians do, nobody cares. You've got to get a compelling story out, and you've got to bring value to other people. That's the only way that you can make it in this day and age. And I try to get that out through my workshops. My workshop was actually born, I went to NC State with something that I created for the museum here. I'm also the composer here at the Museum of Natural Sciences. And I had a mammal board, which is music mixed with animal sounds. And I brought that to NC State because they were having an animal orchestra. So it really fit in well. And what scared the hell out of me when I went there is the students at NC State loved it, and they were playing around with it. And the people that were there to watch the orchestra were playing around with it. But then some of the musicians came out, and they wanted nothing to do with it. They were scared of this little board that you cannot do anything wrong because everything's in key, everything's in time. You literally just press buttons and it makes sounds, and then you mix it with animal sounds, which were also auto-tuned to keys, so you couldn't make anything wrong. But they didn't know what to do with it. I even a couple of times started them off and like, okay, here we go now, and they would just turn it off and they would get weird. They'd do like this and walk away. And it struck me that for so many years, music education, school band, whatever, they've drilled into people that there are rules. And they've drilled into people that you have to follow the rules. And here are these musicians that on my best day, they're better than me as musicians on their worst day. They are orchestral musicians. They're symphonic musicians. These people are good. But they couldn't play with the simple kid's toy that I made for the museum here. And that's when I started my my workshop, No Permission Needed Create, which I brought to Moogfest for 2 years, because I want to get people, it doesn't matter if I get them at 30, if I get them at 50, or if I want to get them young though. I want people to know that music is, and creativity in general, is something that we all have inside of us. And that's important to me, that people realize in this modern day and age, everything has been so democratized. If you want a career in music, go make a career in music. Don't expect a career in music. It's the hardest work you'll ever do. You have to go find your fans. Fans don't find you anymore. You have to be willing to put the work in, and when you do, you reap the benefits. And I'm still in the middle of it. I'm not exactly where I want to be. I really want my solo stuff to go further, and it's starting to take off now. And it's really because I care more about the fan and finding the fans, and I also care about bringing other musicians up with me. Because, I'll tell you what, that's one thing that musicians have not learned, and that's what I'm trying to get out.
You have the business, your music business, then you have your day job that you've found one that complements. But I want you to tell the story of your WordPress disaster and how it turned out to be good news.
As an artist, I can deep dive on this one.
Yeah.
As an artist, don't hold your creations as sacred. Be willing to let them go. And I learned that the hard way. I actually learned this way back when, and I didn't realize I had learned it, but there was a show, which is actually coming back, called Northern Exposure. And it was set in Alaska, in this little town, little remote town. And one of the things was, one of the characters was doing paint by numbers. And there was, of course, the jerk on the show that was telling him that's not real art. And he's like, but I mixed my own colors. But the thing is, every time he would create one of his paint by numbers masterpieces, he would then burn it. He would destroy it because it was ethereal. It didn't matter. I didn't realize back then what that meant, but I do now, because I've had a blog on WordPress. It's Reaching for Lucidity, which was my podcast before. Now it's my record label. And I had stuff on there from 2003 all the way through a few weeks ago. And I went to install a beta thing on it, and something went wrong, and I lost everything from 2003 up until that day. Emo Eban period, you know, the gripey Eban period, everything was on there. And at first I was kind of distraught. I'm like, I just lost everything. But I had actually been battling for a while on where to go with Reaching for Lucidity, my record label and my artist site and everything, because also they had all this baggage on that site that I didn't want to get rid of. Well, the decision was made for me. I couldn't do anything about it. So now I've moved on to another platform which is made specifically for musicians, has a lot of tools for musicians. And the great thing is everything, if you were to go to my site, which is senatorjaiz.rocks, or reachingforlucidity.com, which is the label, Senator Jaiz is my personal site. If you go there, everything is future. There's no past in it. The past has been erased. And it's kind of refreshing to look at it as everything is future. So I thought that was going to be a big loss, and it turned out that it may be one of the biggest gifts I inadvertently got in a long time.
What's your view on success?
It can be boiled down to, there's no such thing as bad art, there's only stuff that you don't like. And what I mean by that is, I used to be a very toxic person. There's a lot of toxic people on the internet, where if I saw something, or if I listened to something and I didn't like it, I would let the whole world know how horrible it is. But then it hit me. That's not really the case. That's just something I don't like. And that's fine. I don't like country music, but there's millions and millions of fans out there that tell me that I'm wrong, because I am wrong. It is good. I just don't like it. Everybody has a different version of what success is for them. And it can be from something so small as to making your family happy at holidays while you play the piano, to being a superstar. But the day and age of being success is because you're a superstar, or because somebody's mom has heard you on the radio as a musician. Of course, all arts are considered here. That's no longer the case. A lot of people make a great living at music now by supplying music for commercials and video games and TV shows and licensing deals. You never even hear these people's names, but they have a better house and car than you. That's their version of success. Some people like to go on the road and stay on the road and tour, and they make enough to live, and that's their version of success. Some people have tons of fans. Some people have an extremely small niche. Some people play anime conventions and comic book conventions, and that's their whole thing. Simon Tam, who has an excellent podcast, which is Music Business Hacks. He also has a book out, Music Business Hacks. If you're a musician, get the book, listen to the podcast. He wanted to trademark the name of his band, which is the Slants, which is a derogatory term toward Asians. But they're an Asian band, and the trademark office would not allow them to trademark it. So he took it to the Supreme Court and won. And now, of course, they trademarked the term the Slants. He has parlayed that into playing, this is funny, lawyer conventions. He makes a living with his band touring and some of their major income comes from the most niche thing you could ever get to. And that's lawyer conventions, because of the legal angle of having taken the trademark office to the Supreme Court and winning. And that was his end. Find your success, find what you're comfortable with, and then execute, and then reevaluate, and then execute again. And that's how you make it in this world today. It doesn't matter if everybody knows your name. It doesn't matter if anybody knows your name. You find your success, and you live within that success. It's a great time for introverts in the music industry. Through licensing, you can make tons of money if that's your goal, and nobody ever has to know your name. You never have to go out and talk to a single person if you're an introvert. However, if you're like me and just can't shut up, there's opportunities for people like me too. My workshops, my music. I hope that we interact in the future, and that's what it is. I'm finding my version of success, and other people find theirs, and that's how you do it.
What's the new site you like?
This site is called Bandzoogle, and this has been around for years. I'm not sure exactly how long, but it's a site that was made by musicians, for musicians, and everything on that site, from the mail list to the EPK, which is electronic press kits, to the engagement, to the Google Analytics, to the building of the site itself, everything is geared toward musicians or labels. So you can't go wrong being there, and the prices are very competitive with other hosting options, but they have your back. And it's always, this is a little bit of advice. If you can find a company that was created by fellow musicians, as a musician, go with that company, because you're talking with people that have created a business around knowing exactly what you need. You know, it's always tempting to go out, I'm going to blaze a new path, right? But you don't ever need to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is there. Figure out a new way to use the wheel. And that's how you go about it.
Excellent. And you have a Patreon site that you're building up to? Mention that.
I have a Patreon site that is Senator Jaiz. I'd love for you to check it out. I am building up the tiers, but I think I got some good stuff there. If that's not your cup of tea, and I completely understand if it's not, I'm most active on Instagram. That's Senator Jaiz. Facebook, Senator Jaiz. Spotify, you can catch my music and listen without having to pay for it at Spotify, Senator Jaiz. And I'd love for you to do that, because you know, we'll build some relationships. That's where the fun is in the relationships.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
You bet.
I'll put the links below. Well, you've heard it live here, and it was great interviewing the master, Senator Jaiz.
That's correct.
We got it, and
friends call me Eban.
Eban's good too. Anyway, he's been inspiration for me learning music, and so I wanted to do a little catch up with him at lunch, interview, and let people know. Follow his stuff, find out. There's success hidden everywhere, and he's another example of a small business doing his dream. Take care. So that works.